The storm came fast. Sergeant Caleb Reese had seen bad weather before, but this was different. The sky above Vardanine turned a deep green as sharp winds howled through the alien forest. Lightning didn't flash, it pulsed, glowing in strange colors. Trees bent under the pressure. His suit's sensors warned him, take shelter now or risk death. Caleb was alone on a solo recon mission near the southern range. The outpost was too far to reach in time. He had only one option, his emergency tent. He tapped the control on his wrist, and the field tent unpacked from his backpack, quickly expanding into a small dome made of smart fabric. It wasn't much, just enough space for one person, a heater, and some supplies, but it would keep him alive. He crawled inside, sealed the flap, and powered up the heater. Outside, the wind screamed louder. He checked the sensors. The storm would last 8 hours. He sighed. Guess it's going to be a long night. Then he heard it, a sound soft, broken like something crying. Not far from the tent. Caleb froze. He tapped his sidearm but didn't draw it yet. He opened the flap just a little, peeking out. At first, he saw nothing but swirling rain and moving branches. Then, near a tree, he spotted a figure. It was something curled up on the ground. Thin, shaking, and barely moving, his breath caught in his throat. It was a canary. The canary were native to this world. Tall, slender, humanoid, with fur-covered skin and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Their kind didn't speak much. They avoided humans, kept to their forests, and didn't like being watched. The Terran base had strict rules: do not engage unless threatened, but this one wasn't threatening anyone. She looked injured and scared. She didn't move when he approached, just looked up at him with tired, pale yellow eyes. One of her arms hung limp, and her side had a strange purple bruise. She was soaked, shivering. Caleb hesitated. This could be a trap. Maybe others were watching, but something inside him pushed the fear away. He pulled off his jacket and knelt beside her. Hey, he said softly, knowing she probably didn't understand. You'll freeze out here? She didn't respond. Just watched him, alert but not moving. He looked back at the tent. It was a one-man shelter, not made for two. But leaving her here meant death. He made a decision. Caleb stood and held out his hand. Come on, just for the night. She looked at his hand, then at his face. After a moment, slowly, carefully, she reached out and touched his glove. He helped her up gently. She was light too. Light, maybe starving. Her steps were weak, unsteady. Inside the tent, he cleared space, offering her the heated side. She sat down silently and curled up in the corner, still dripping wet. He handed her a food bar. She sniffed it, then took small bites without looking at him. Caleb sat across from her, near the flap, arms around his knees. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Outside, the storm roared on. Inside, it was quiet. Just the hum of the heater and the sound of breathing. After some time, she stopped shaking. Her eyes closed. Sleep found her easily. Caleb stayed awake. For a while, watching her with quiet curiosity. He had never seen a canary this close. Her face was peaceful now, almost gentle. Whatever fear she had outside was gone in here. He didn't know why she had trusted him. Maybe she had no choice. Maybe she saw something in his face. Or maybe, out there in the storm, survival made enemies forget old rules. Eventually, Caleb leaned back and closed his eyes too. The tent was warm. The storm would pass. They would figure things out tomorrow. Morning came quietly. The storm was gone. The forest outside was damp, glowing faintly with morning mist, but the canary woman was gone. She had left without a sound. No footprints, no signs. Just the food wrappers still resting by her side of the tent. Caleb stepped out and looked around. Nothing. He wondered if she would return. He didn't know her name. She hadn't said a single word, but something about that night felt important, like it had changed something. For now, he packed up the tent and started walking back to the outpost. The storm was over, but his mind was full of questions, and far off in the trees, unseen, a pair of yellow eyes watched him go. 2 weeks passed. Sergeant Caleb Reese tried to forget the night with the canary woman, but he couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her curled in the corner of the tent, quiet, cold, scared and yet safe. He told no one about it. The outpost had strict orders: no contact with Canary unless there was a threat. If the general found out Caleb had let one inside his tent, even to save her, there would be questions. Maybe punishment. So? Caleb said nothing, but something had changed. He kept seeing signs in the forest, strange tracks near his path, soft claw marks on nearby trees, and once a piece of cloth that looked like the same rough material the Canary wore. At night, when he camped alone during patrols, he sometimes felt watched, not in a dangerous way. Just watched. Then, during a routine recon mission, everything changed. Caleb and two other scouts were walking along a narrow ridge when the warning beeped on his sensor. Motion nearby. They raised their rifles and moved slowly through the trees. That's when the creature leapt. It was a razor beast, a native predator, all muscle and spikes. Its 6 legs made it fast, and its bite could tear through armor. It lunged straight at Caleb before he could fire. He stumbled back, hitting the ground hard. The razor beast roared, claws raised, then another roar came from the trees, louder, wilder. Something blurred past them and crashed into the creature. It was her, the Canary woman. She hit the razor beast with full force, tackling it to the ground. She moved like a storm, fast, silent, brutal. Her claws slashed across the beast's side, and with a final growl, she sent it running into the forest. The scouts stared in shock. Caleb sat frozen on the ground. She turned and looked at him. Same yellow eyes. Same quiet strength. Then she did something strange. She took one step toward him and let out a low sound, not a growl, but a warning. A protective noise? Then she looked at the other 2 soldiers and did it again, louder this time. The scouts stepped back, unsure what to do. Caleb stood slowly. "She's not attacking," he said, raising his hand. "She saved me." The woman gave him a final glance, then disappeared into the trees again, gone like smoke. Later, at the base, everyone was talking about it. A Canary attacked a predator to save you. One soldier asked, "Why would she do that?" Said another, "I think she's following you," joked a third. "She's your bodyguard now." Caleb didn't laugh. That night, as he sat outside his tent, cleaning his gear, he heard a sound. He looked up and saw her standing just beyond the fence, watching. He didn't move. She didn't either. She stayed there until the lights dimmed. Then she vanished into the dark. After that, she kept coming back, not always close. Sometimes she just watched from the edge of the trees. But if someone got near Caleb too quickly, she growled. One time, a soldier slapped Caleb on the back, joking around, and the Canary let out a low, sharp warning from the shadows. The man stepped back quickly. Okay, sheesh. People started avoiding Caleb, nervous about the wild guardian. Even inside the base, Caleb could feel her nearby. No one could understand it. He didn't understand it either. They had never spoken. She didn't give him a name. She didn't eat the food he left anymore. But she never left him alone. Was it loyalty, gratitude, or something else? One night, unable to sleep, Caleb walked into the forest. He left a light trail so he wouldn't get lost. He didn't go far, just to a small clearing with a view of the stars. He sat on a rock and looked up. Vardanine had twin moons, both glowing gently in the sky. Then he heard the soft rustle of leaves. She stepped into the moonlight. No weapons, no armor, just her tall, quiet form and glowing eyes. They stared at each other for a moment. Caleb spoke softly. "Why me?" She tilted her head. "I'm just a soldier." "You saved my life?" "I didn't do anything for you, not really." She knelt by the edge of the clearing. Still silent, Caleb sighed. "You don't have to protect me." Her gaze didn't change. But something in her body language said, "I choose to." That was the night Caleb accepted it. He wasn't just being followed. He wasn't just a man who helped a stranger once. He was hers now. Not as property. Not as a pet, but as someone she had chosen to protect. Word spread fast across the Terran outpost. Everyone knew about the Canary woman now, the silent one who protected Sergeant Caleb Reese like a shadow. Some called it strange. Others called it dangerous. And General Marcus Harlan didn't like It one bit. He was a strict man, short hair, sharp eyes. He had served in 3 planetary wars and didn't believe in mysteries. When he heard about the Canary showing up near his men, he called Caleb in at once. "You will explain this, Sergeant," Harlan said, hands behind his back. "Why does a Canary female appear every time you step outside?" Caleb stood straight. "I don't know, sir. She saved you from a predator." "Yes, sir." "She growled at one of your own men?" "Only when he got too close to me, sir. She's never hurt anyone." The general narrowed his eyes. "You didn't report this earlier. That's a problem." "I didn't think it was a threat, sir." That's not your decision to make." Caleb didn't speak. He knew he was in trouble. Harlan stepped closer. "We don't understand these creatures. They live in forests, avoid contact, and now one decides to follow a human around like a guard dog? No reason, no warning? That's not natural." "She's not dangerous," Caleb said. "She helped me." Maybe she's studying us. Maybe we're being tested." "With respect, sir, I think she just needed help during the storm. I let her in my tent." That's it? Harlan leaned in. "She's stalking you across half the jungle because you shared a tent?" Caleb didn't answer. The general sat back behind his desk. "This isn't a romance story, Reese. This is a military base. If something acts strangely, we examine it. If something follows our soldiers, we monitor it. And if something growls at humans, we stop it. What are you saying, sir?" "I'm saying if she shows up again, we take her in, quietly, we'll run tests. Learn why she's behaving this way." "No," the word came out before Caleb could stop himself. Harlan raised an eyebrow. "No?" Caleb stood straighter. "She trusted me. I won't betray that." "She's not a subject to be locked up and studied." The general's voice turned cold. "You're a soldier, not her friend." "You follow orders." Caleb said nothing. He saluted, turned, and left the office. Outside, the sky was cloudy. The trees swayed softly in the wind. Caleb walked to the outer fence. He wasn't sure why. Maybe he just needed air, and there she was. Again, she stood beyond the fence, still and quiet, watching. Caleb walked closer. They stared at each other through the barrier. Then, slowly, she stepped forward and touched the fence with her clawed fingers, without thinking. He placed his gloved hand on the same spot, separated only by metal. "I can't protect you here," he whispered. "They want to take you." She blinked once, then looked past him toward the base. Her expression changed. She understood. That night, Caleb didn't sleep. His mind kept racing. He couldn't let them take her. But if he warned her off, would she listen? She wasn't his pet. She did what she wanted. Still, the idea of her being locked up, surrounded by machines and scientists, it made his stomach twist. The next day, soldiers were given new orders. Capture the Canary woman on sight. Non-lethal force only. Net guns, darts, no harm but no freedom. Caleb heard the briefing but said nothing. He felt sick inside. When night came, he packed a small bag, just supplies, rations, and his tent. Then he walked to the forest. He followed the trail to the clearing where he had seen her before. Moonlight shone down, quiet and soft. "I know." "You're there," he said aloud. "They want to catch you." "Lock you up?" The trees moved slightly. Then she stepped out, silent as ever. "They think you're dangerous," Caleb said, "but you're not." She tilted her head, listening. "I can't stay in the base. If I do, they'll find you." "I have to leave." For a long moment she didn't move. Then she took one step toward him. And another. Finally, she stood in front of him, close enough to touch, slowly. Without a sound, she reached out and rested her hand on his chest. Over his heart, Caleb placed his hand over hers. "We leave together," he said quietly. No words. "We're needed." That night, while the base slept, a soldier walked into the dark with nothing but a backpack and a quiet alien beside him, and no one stopped them. The forest looked different now. It wasn't just the trees or the strange glowing plants. It was the feeling like they had crossed into a place untouched by humans. The paths were no longer marked. The air was thicker, quieter, wilder. Caleb. Reese had left everything behind, his rank, his uniform, his place among his people. All for a Canary woman who had never even said a word, but he didn't regret it. She walked ahead of him, leading the way through the forest, Her movements were graceful and sure. She didn't need a map. The forest seemed to open for her as if it remembered her steps. Caleb followed, careful and alert. His boots made soft crunches on the mossy ground. His pack was light, just supplies, water, a tent, and his trusted knife. They had been walking for 3 days now. No one had followed them. Not yet, but Caleb knew it wouldn't stay that way. Back at the outpost, they would realize he was gone. They'd guess he had left with her. And they would come, but where they were going, soldiers didn't go. It was called the Wild Zone, a place even the Canary rarely entered. Humans had maps that stopped before its border. Creatures beyond reason lived here. Energy readings went strange. Satellites lost signal. Drones vanished, but she didn't hesitate. She moved like she belonged here. On the 4th night, they found shelter inside a hollow tree, wider than a room. Vines covered the walls and the ground was dry. Caleb set down his bag. He hadn't spoken much during the journey, but now he broke the silence. "Why here?" he asked quietly. She looked at him and then tapped the ground once, soft, safe. She sat down near the wall and closed her eyes. Caleb nodded. "Right, safer than out there." He sat too. The air was cool, filled with the scent of alien flowers and wet earth. A soft glow came from tiny insects on the ceiling. After a few minutes, she looked at him. Then she finally did something new. She spoke, just one word. "A name. Rhesus?" Caleb blinked. "Is that your name?" She nodded once. He smiled, surprised. "Rhesus," he said slowly. "It fits you." She said nothing more that night. But the silence felt different now, warmer, calmer. They shared food. She accepted a dried ration bar this time. She still didn't eat much, but it was something when they lay down to rest. She curled up nearby, closer than usual. Caleb didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew one thing. He wasn't walking alone anymore. The next morning, things changed again. They heard a sound, distant, faint, but clear. Engines. Caleb stood quickly, checking his scanner. It blinked red 2 signals approaching fast. "Air units. They found us," he whispered. Rhesus stood too, calm but alert. Her ears twitched and her eyes narrowed. "We need cover," Caleb said. Rhesus grabbed his hand and pulled him into the trees. They ran fast, weaving between roots and branches, moving low and quiet. Caleb trusted her completely now. She knew this place better than anyone. Soon they reached a cliff edge. Below was a deep valley filled with mist. She pointed down. Caleb didn't ask. He followed her as they climbed down carefully. By the time the tout drones arrived above the trees, the two were gone from sight. They took shelter in a hidden cave below the valley. It was dark but warm, lit by glowing stones. Caleb sat against the wall, breathing hard. "We're running out of space," he said. "They'll keep sending more." Rhesus sat beside him, her face calm. Then she turned to him, lifted her hand, and slowly pressed her fingers against his forehead. Images filled Caleb's mind. Not words, not pictures, but feelings, memories. The night of the storm, cold, fear, a hand reaching out, warmth, safety. Then, her people scattered, hiding, watching the humans from afar, and finally, him. A light in the storm. A quiet place. Trust. She pulled her hand back. Caleb blinked. "You shared your memory." Rhesus gave a small nod. He understood now. He wasn't just some soldier to her. He was a moment. A choice. He gave her something no one else had: kindness, without fear. And now she had given him something back. That night, something strange happened. Rhesus stood and walked to the edge of the cave. She let out a soft, rising hum the sound echoed into the trees. Then, one by one, glowing shapes appeared. Other CANARI. Tall, silent, watching. They came from the mist like spirits. Caleb stood, tense but not afraid. Rhesus looked at him and nodded gently. "It's okay." One of the new Canari stepped forward, older. His eyes glowed blue. He studied Caleb with deep, unreadable focus. Then, in clear but accented English, he spoke. "You walked into the Wild Zone. With her? No weapons raised? No fear?" Caleb nodded. "I didn't come to fight. You were followed." "Yes. And you still came." Yes, the old Canary was silent for a long time, then he spoke again. Then you may stay. Caleb Reese had never seen anything like the place hidden inside the wild zone. The Canary village was deep in the valley, surrounded by tall trees and soft glowing plants. Homes were built into the hills and trees, shaped by nature instead of machines. Everything felt alive, peaceful, but full of hidden strength. He walked beside Reese's as Canary people watched him from a distance. Some looked curious, others wary. None spoke. But none raised weapons either. The older Canary, the one with glowing blue eyes, was called Escher. He was not a king or general. Reese's explained with simple words. He is an elder. Keeper of Memory. Ishar spoke calmly as they walked. You are the first human we have allowed into this place, he said. You may stay as long as you respect our laws, Caleb nodded. I'm not here to hurt anyone. You already proved that, Ishar said. That is why we watch you, not chase you. Reese's led him to a small shelter under a vine-covered hill. It had space for 2 soft leaves for bedding, and a warm fire circle made of smooth stones. This is yours now, she said softly. Caleb blinked. Wait, you can talk? Reese's gave a small smile. Only when needed, he chuckled. You've needed to talk more. I listened first, she replied. They sat in silence for a moment. The air was calm, filled with soft sounds of wind and faraway animals. For the first time in weeks, Caleb felt like he could breathe. In the days that followed, Caleb learned the Canary didn't live like humans. They didn't use machines or lights or loud tools. Everything they built came from the forest. They hunted with respect, took only what they needed, and never wasted anything. Caleb helped where he could. He carried water, moved stones, and learned how to read animal tracks. The Canary didn't speak much, but they watched. And slowly, they began to nod at him when he passed. He wasn't just a stranger anymore. At night, he sat beside Reese's, sharing food and quiet talk. She told him more now, not everything, but enough. My people used to live closer to the mountains, she said one evening. But we lost that place when the first human towers came. I'm sorry, Caleb said. She nodded. Some of us were angry. Others were afraid. I was alone when the storm came. I didn't expect a human to help. I didn't expect an alien to follow me, Caleb replied with a smile that made her laugh, soft and short, but real. One day, while helping Escher with stone carvings, Caleb asked a question that had been in his mind for days. Why does Reese's protect me? Even before I came here? Escher didn't look up. He continued carving a symbol into the stone. Long ago, Canary used to bond through survival. If one saved another, the bond would grow, not by force, by choice, a quiet promise. Like a life debt? No, Escher said. Not a debt? A connection, something sacred. Caleb thought about that. Reese's never asked for anything. She never claimed him. But she stayed near, guarded him, warned others away. She chose me, he whispered. Yes, Escher said. And now, you choose too. That night, Caleb found Reese's near the edge of the village, watching the stars. He sat beside her. For a while, neither spoke. Then he said, I never belonged in that outpost. I followed orders, did my job, but I never felt seen. Reese's looked at him quietly. I didn't know I was waiting for something, Caleb said. Then you showed up. She reached out and touched his shoulder. You listened. That is rare. I think I was just tired of war, he said. Tired of being told who the enemy is. You didn't treat me like one, she said. I never will. They sat side by side, the stars above them. Reese's rested her head lightly against his arm. The bond needed no more words, but peace never lasts long. The next morning, a young Canary scout ran into the village with urgent news. Human soldiers were near. 2 dropships had landed just outside the wild zone. Scanners were active. They were searching. Ishar called a meeting. The Canary gathered in the main circle. Caleb stood beside Reese's as Escher spoke. They have not entered our land yet, the elder said. But they will. They are looking for him. All eyes turned to Caleb. I didn't tell them anything, he said quickly. I didn't leave any trail. No one blames you, Asher said. But their presence puts us all at risk. I'll leave, Caleb said. If I go to them, they'll stop searching. They don't want war, Rhys stepped forward. You won't go alone. No, Caleb said firmly. You can't risk yourself. This is not only about you, she replied. If they come here once, they'll come again, Asher nodded. Perhaps it is time we speak to them ourselves. Caleb stared at him. You talked to the Terran Command? We avoided war once. But now we may need to show them what peace truly looks like. Rhys looked at Caleb. Together? He nodded. Whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The forest was quiet that morning. Too quiet. Birds didn't sing. Leaves didn't move. Even the wind held its breath. Caleb Rhys stood at the edge of the Canary village, armored up once again, but not in war gear. Just a light vest, boots, and his old Terran tag around his neck. His eyes watched the sky. Behind him, Rhys stood tall and calm, her golden eyes scanning the treetops. Escher stood beside her, his long staff in hand, and several Canary warriors waited quietly in the shadows. Dressed in dark forest cloaks, far above, a Terran dropship roared through the clouds. It slowed as it approached, then hovered just beyond the tree line. It didn't fire, it didn't land. But its presence spoke loudly. They were being watched. They won't shoot unless they feel threatened, Caleb said quietly. Then they must see no threat. Escher replied. Caleb took a deep breath and stepped forward. Out of the trees and into the open field, the dropship adjusted position, scanning him with a thin red beam. Then a voice spoke from above through a loudspeaker. Sergeant Caleb Rhys, you have violated command orders. Stand down and prepare for extraction. Caleb raised his hand slowly. I'm not here to fight, he called back. I didn't defect. I left to protect someone who saved my life. No answer came right away. Then the ship's ramp lowered. A group of Terran soldiers stepped out, fully armed. Behind them came General Harlan himself, looking older, harder. Walked up to Caleb, stopping a few meters away. You're making a mistake, son. No, sir, Caleb said. I'm trying to stop one. Harlan narrowed his eyes. Where is the alien? Right here. Rhys stepped out of the trees, her movements graceful and slow. Her posture was strong, but peaceful. She walked too. Caleb sighed and stopped. Terran soldiers raised their weapons. Hold your fire. Harlan barked. The soldiers hesitated, then lowered their rifles. Rhys didn't move. She simply stood beside Caleb, her expression calm. Harlan looked at her, then back at Caleb. You trust her? She saved me more than once, Caleb said. She followed me through a storm, protected me from wild beasts, warned off enemies, and never hurt anyone. She growled at your squad, Harlan reminded. She was protecting me. Why? Caleb paused, then looked at Rhys. Because I gave her shelter when she had none. And she gave me something back, loyalty, maybe more. The general shook his head. You're a soldier, not a diplomat. Maybe it's time we act like both, Caleb replied. You don't know what's back there, General. They're not savages. They have history, knowledge, wisdom. We'd been on their land without ever asking. Harlan's expression hardened. You want me to trust a wild species, based on what? A bond? A friendship? No, sir, Caleb said. Based on truth. Rhys stepped forward and raised her hand not in threat, but in a gesture of peace. She slowly touched her own heart. Then then she did something none of them expected. She spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear. We are not your enemy. The words hung in the air. For a moment no one moved. Then Escher came forward, walking with slow dignity. He stood beside Rhys and Caleb, his eyes steady on the general. You came here to search. You found your man. Now listen, Escher said in practiced English. We hid for years, not out of weakness, but out of hope that one day your kind would be ready to talk, not take. The Terran soldiers stood frozen. Escher continued, This human walked into our wildest lands, not with weapons but with patience. He listened, he protected, and so we protected him. Harlan was silent. His face was unreadable. Finally, he spoke. You want a peace treaty? No, Escher said. We want understanding. No promises, no politics. Just one truth, your people don't belong everywhere. Caleb added, if we keep expanding into their land without respect, war will come. But if we just stop and learn, maybe something better can grow. The general looked at Caleb, then Rhesus, then Escher. You risked your career for this, Harlan said to Caleb. I didn't plan to, Caleb replied. But now I wouldn't take it back. There was a long silence, then Harlan finally nodded once. I'll report this. I'll say the Canari aren't a threat. I'll request a pause on further expansion until an ambassador can meet with them. Rhesus gave a small nod. Caleb smiled. But, Harlan added, you're not coming back to base. I know, Caleb said. My place is here now. Harlan turned away. Good luck, Sergeant. With that, the general and his men walked back to the dropship. The engines flared, and within minutes they were gone. That night, the village celebrated not with loud sounds or bright lights, but with shared meals and quiet music made from carved flutes and stringed vines. Caleb sat beside Rhesus under the stars, the firelight flickering between them. They're not our enemy anymore, he said. Maybe never were, she replied. You're staying here, right? He asked. Yes, and you? Caleb smiled. I've already chosen. She gave a soft growl, not of anger, but of pride. Her kind of smile, he laughed quietly. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You gave me shelter, she said. And you gave me a reason to stay, he replied. Together, under the sky of 2 moons, a human and a Canari watched the stars' 2 lives, once strangers, now forever bonded.